Guy, let me start with you. Did you think these two would be in the lead when we got to New Hampshire?
Sanders, yes. The total collapse of Joe Biden has been fascinating to watch. His campaign announcing earlier today that they are pulling up stakes and getting out of Dodge and heading to South Carolina. Doing that on Election Day, I think, is sending a signal. I saw he was quoted saying that he is still mildly hopeful about New Hampshire, which is quite a soundbite there. And you just look at what Biden, even this morning, he went on another network's morning show and said that, sure, any of us can beat Donald Trump. Mickey Mouse could beat Donald Trump, which is undercutting his central argument, which is electability, which seems to be circling the drain right now. So the front runner nationally in this race for months very much seems not to be that anymore. And Bernie Sanders is licking his chops, looking towards tonight. He's leading in the polls, saying, if I can winning the most votes in Iowa, winning the most votes in New Hampshire, there's a path for me, especially if the other side of this primary remains crowded and sort of clogged up with people.
Capri, I was looking for my note on how the polls have sunk. Well, he was talking about Joe Biden there. Biden down in the Monmouth polls, lost 14 points since mid-January, 9 points since late January in the Quinnipiac poll. NBC Wall Street Journal poll down 2 points since mid-December. I guess that's the best one. So what do you think of where he has been? What has happened with him?
I mean, I think what's happened is that he's actually been out there and voters have had an opportunity to actually engage with Joe Biden. And what we've seen in the last, 3 times that he's run for president, I guess this is his 3rd time actually running for president, that, he is not particularly good on the campaign trail. He has had lackluster debate performances. And, as a result, he's lagging not only in the polls, but in fundraising. So I think he's in really big trouble. Now, to Bernie Sanders, though, I would say this, that I don't think New Hampshire is going to be this earth-shattering moment for him, even though I'm sure he's going to try to pitch it as momentum. But because he's from the neighboring state of Vermont, he won it 4 years ago, it's not really going to mean a whole lot for Bernie Sanders to win New Hampshire. It's what happens after New Hampshire.
Although just being close to New Hampshire doesn't mean that you're going to be successful. Look
Amen.
Look
at Elizabeth Warren.
Right?
I don't disagree with that.
That was what I want to talk about.
Go ahead.
Because the bigger disaster isn't Joe Biden, who's still got Nevada, strong Union state, and South Carolina, still commanding presence there, a strong black vote, is Elizabeth Warren, because she's finished 3rd in Iowa. She could do worse in New Hampshire, and she's still stay the course, doing the same thing. Politico notes that she has more than 1,000 staffers in 31 states, likely second only to Mike Bloomberg. And of the nonpartisan Cook Political Report, Dave Wasserman wrote this. I follow him closely on Twitter. Having watched Warren up close today, this is yesterday, there's no one in the field better at using his or her life story to build the case for his or her candidacy. She does it superbly well, but she's also shown the least willingness and ability to switch up tactics when things aren't going well. And his theory is that when that New York Times Upshot Siena poll came out and showed her doing worse against Donald Trump than Joe Biden and Bernie Sanders, that was the beginning of the end. My words, not his, but that was where she lost the momentum. And I don't know what she's doing, quite frankly.
How much of her life story is true?
Yeah.
No, and I think Dagan's absolutely right. The candidacy we've been focusing on in terms of implosion has been Joe Biden, but Elizabeth Warren needs this more than he does because she does have proximity. She also speaks a shorthand with people in New Hampshire that she has been relying on to boost her in this critical first primary state. And, Amy Klobuchar, she had the big night Friday night.
Right.
And she got the big momentum swing.
$3 million.
Yesterday, I called her old coffin nail Klobuchar because she really could end the candidacies of either Warren or Biden because she has surged at an interesting time. I don't know if it's enough for her, but it's certainly enough to do some real damage to their two campaigns.
So I'm glad you brought her up because I was going to say she's the one that we haven't mentioned yet. The other person who hasn't mentioned her is President Trump. She doesn't seem to have a nickname yet, which is probably the biggest insult you can get from him. If he hasn't taken the time to give you a nickname, Dagan.
Salad comb?
I mean, I don't know. Then
Salad comb.
Sometimes it means that's an insult. It just means you're being ignored. Maybe you're not a threat.
I totally agree with that, but again, you can take on Elizabeth Warren because she has lied about so much of her past and said she was she actually called herself an American Indian on her bar application. Amy Klobuchar is a little bit harder to go after until she gives you a reason to do that. Then you do look like a bully, and I think that President Trump's maybe a little bit savvier than that. But Bill McGurn in the Wall Street Journal has talking about Pete Buttigieg. Why are people going after his record as the mayor of South Bend? Nobody is going after his just blatant failures in what is a small city, extremely high murder rate for a city of its size. And Bill McGurn writes about this very thing, that the number of African Americans on the police force actually fell to 6% during his mayorship, and the population is 26% black. That you could go through point by point by point on how he couldn't even run the fourth largest
I think some people are just
city in the state,
straight up just trying to, dismiss him being a small town mayor. I mean, you've seen Joe Biden go after him, basically saying that's cute.
No,
Mayor
but
Pete.
he made fun of his successes. Go after his failures. Incredibly high murder rate.
I agree with you. I mean, it's definitely a roadmap there, but I think that people have chosen to just basically pat him on the head and say, that's cute, you're a small town mayor.
Yeah, I think they
president."
don't take him seriously. That's why they.
If he wins tonight, that changes.
Right. Yeah.
Right? If he pulls an upset tonight, that changes.
Absolutely.
So, Guy, let me ask you a little bit about Elizabeth Warren. So as she's sinking here, she says she attacks Donald Trump, but she also says, so we need to remember a country that elected a man like Donald Trump is a country that was already in trouble. That is getting dangerously close to condemning the people that voted for him. I guess there wouldn't be a lot of crossover between President Trump's voters and Elizabeth Warren's voters. But when you start going after the people, that's never a good tactic.
Well, she doesn't really make an effort to bring people together at all. Sometimes she'll mouth a few words about reconciliation, but she is an extremely divisive candidate in this race, and she's really having a lot of trouble. And it gives me great pleasure to say that, because I think she's awful in terms of her policies, right? Just to be very clear. But I think Dagan makes a very important point, because we're focusing on Biden. Part of that is because just the massive epic nature of this collapse that we're in the process of seeing, because he was the national frontrunner for so long. But he at least does have, theoretically, you can look at the map coming up and say there's a firewall in South Carolina. He still is doing well enough among black voters. There's a springboard, in theory, on paper, that can put him back into this race if he does well in the Palmetto State. Show me a firewall or a springboard for Elizabeth Warren coming up. If it's not New Hampshire, then where?
Yeah, and I don't think she resonates in California. And we have been focusing on California as much because we've got Nevada and South Carolina in the way. But it is delegate rich, it is nutrient rich, and it is critical. And you're going to see a couple.
But she displayed her weakness when she went after Bernie Sanders using her gender as a crutch. That was a flag to anybody watching.
Well, and notice,
she was
Amy
desperate.
Klobuchar doesn't use her gender as much as a crutch.
But she went after Bernie Sanders.
She went after Mayor Pete, saying, well, if I were a small town mayor, no one would pay attention to me because I'm a woman. It's like, just stop.
She stole her whole platform from Bernie Sanders and then went after him, and all the Sanders voters were like, you're out of here, lady.
All right.